Okay, everybody, welcome back. This week we are working through the archetype of gate 3, which is the gate of innovation. Um, and I felt really called to do a video because this gate, although it is the gate of innovation, which sounds really expansive, it can have a lot of shadow to it in our lives. And remembering that the shadow is not good or bad, it's just what we're working through. And I have found it come up for quite a few clients. And so I thought maybe we could all use a little extra support because at the shadow end of this gate, so let's just get into it, right? Because that's how I like to do. At the shadow end of this gate, we're really working with the concept of chaos. So in the I Ching, this gate is called difficulty at the beginning, and we'll see how that unfolds as we unpack the gate. But it is this kind of this lower vibration of the chaos of things being out of order, disordered, right? Um, and what it takes to create order, but not the kind of order that we tend to think about, right? Like not the kind of that kind of squeezing and controlling order, but the allowing order that comes from working through the higher expressions of this gate. So, all right. So when we think about this order, for example, or this chaos for at the shadow state, it's really about the dilemma. The dilemma here is really about clinging, right? So we have all of these things that we think stabilize us in our lives, our career, our family, all the things that we could name that are the pillars of our life that we would say create our stability. And and what this gate is saying, because it's the gate of innovation, it's saying that we can't really find ourselves so attached to those pillars. We can't really find ourselves so attached to our career or our family. We can't really, and by attachment, we could say that's the word clingy, right? Where we get really when we want to hold on to the way things have been or the way things are, not because they're great, but because they're safe, right? So really what we're looking here is where we might get stuck in our lives because of the fear of change. And the fear of change is a big one, y'all. Like when we look at the neurology of change, it takes quite a bit of resiliency in the nervous system for us to be able to face the fear of the unknown, which is when we're working with change or innovation, then we're kind of facing this big unknown. And when we face that big unknown, we need resiliency in our nervous system. We need to be able to, as I've said a couple times this week, be response able, meaning that I'm not in my reactive state. I'm not holding on to a past belief system, a past way of being, past trauma, past story, past narrative, past conditioning that keeps me in a reactive state. So when we look at the nervous system, remembering, y'all have probably heard me say this before, but the difference in a well integrated and balanced nervous system has to do with the ability to not be reactive or to understand where we have become reactive and to bring ourselves back into a response able state, right? Response ability. And so this gate is really about this space in which we can really get reactive from the chaos, from the clinging to the fear of the unknown, of what's going to change, what's going to be different, or even the desire to have something different. Like we're often even just afraid to desire something really different in our lives. Um and so this gate is really about like, well, then how do I get centered, get response able, and then face that fear of that change so that I can release, so that I can not hold on too tightly. Really, I think a great way to kind of look at this is if you're a parent or through the lens of parenting. If you're not a parent, you've definitely been a child of parents, right? So at least as far as I know. Um, And so what we're really looking at is like when we look at this gate, the shadow of this gate in parenting would be to like cling, to hold on to the kids, to like be afraid of their growing up, afraid for them, often is the kind of the narrative, right? We're afraid for them. And so we're kind of holding on too tightly. But what this gate is trying to teach us is that a change is inevitable. And actually, if we look at children, there's actually quite a bit of playfulness to this gate when we really break it down, when we really dive in. Children are amazing teachers in general, but in particular, this gate of chaos, right? Kids come in and have a natural chaos to their lives, right? But they also have this ability to kind of come through the chaos right on to the next thing, right? And so this gate kind of teaches us in that same way, like we're not here to hold on to this moment or this thing for very long. Change is inevitable, and we are constantly evolving and changing. And really, the universe, there's this chaos of the universe. Given a void, the universe will fill it with some life, some excitement, right? And so there's a joyous aspect of making peace with that chaos, right? Like that is inevitably what the universe is. And if we can hold that our role in the world is to stay heart-centered and response-able, then the chaos can happen, but it isn't affecting us, and we're not afraid of the innovation that might come from that chaos, right? So one of the things that I've talked about, probably you've heard me talk about it before, is one of the things that I think we are socially facing in our society is that our children or our young people are not getting an opportunity to be bored, to allow boredom, to allow them to just be in quiet, creative play, right? And so they're from kind of early on, they're kind of plugged into something. I mean, literally now the generations are plugged into gadgets and things like that. But like, it's actually from that kind of chaos of play that something new, something innovative can arise, something that they didn't think before. So if you've ever watched children play, then they often have all their toys out. They'll just be, talking and then suddenly they're just like, oh, I had an idea, and they're gone and they're doing something completely different, right? And when I was an art jeweler, I used to, when I was just needing a day of creativity, I used to actually just dump a bunch of things on my bench and just kind of move them around, creatively play with what was there until an idea or something new came out of it, right? So I just let it be chaos. I just let actually some of my best designs came from my bench being completely in chaos. And if you know me or have ever worked with me, I can be a little chaotic as part of who I am. I have a lot of fire, which is that creative energy, right? And so it's like, so it's allowing the space for us to even let the chaos, we have to make space for the chaos so that there's an excitement to the no structure that allows us to do something new, something innovative, right? So it's like innovation is born of the ability to be at peace with the chaos, to embrace the chaos in some kind of way. And so at the lower end of this gate, what it's really asking of us is to look at where we've like attached deeply into some core stabilities in our life. It might be our job, it might be our relationships, it might be our family, wherever it is. And just to kind of ask of ourselves, like, what are those things that stabilize me? And what would I be without it? What would it allow? What kind of freedom would be if I didn't have that stabilizer, if I didn't have that pillar in my life? What could be possible? Now, often when we face the kind of possibility that could come with like totally destabilizing our lives, which is kind of what this chaos will do unconsciously if we're not willing to look at it, then that there's fear that comes up, right? This like whatever the fear is, the fear of like, oh my gosh, no, I would be afraid of this, or this would happen, or the shoulds and the coulds. That's where the work is. Like when we say shadow work, that's what we mean, like to go find where the fear of that thing changing lives and then look at it, right? But now again, looking at our chaos, looking at our deep fear, looking at the possibility of being totally unhinged, right? Like think about a life in which you had no stability, no stabilizers. You were completely free. Now, we often say we want that, but we're afraid of what that total freedom might mean. And so there's all of these places for us to kind of dig in there and say, oh my gosh, this is where my fear is, and when that's what I was about to say, when we're looking at that fear, we need a stabilized or a response able nervous system so that we can look at that fear, not because we're going to totally destabilize our lives. That's not the point. But the fear of our lives becoming unstable is what keeps us stuck. And so this is the opportunity for you to say, what is it I would be totally afraid to let go of, and why? And bring this heart-centered being that you are, this being of love and light, to that fear. What would it take for you to be able to look at that safely and in a responsible way, and in a way that your nervous system can handle it? And that's part of what resiliency is. It's the ability to allow chaos in our lives around us and be able to stay heart-centered in cohesion. We would say, from my perspective, it would be neuro cohesion, but there's also heart-centered cohesion. Those things go hand in hand. They're not actually separate, even though there's a whole lot more to each of them than just saying that. But it's the ability to stay cohesive. And what cohesion means is, like, I'm staying in alignment with my highest self while I observe and stay curious about all of these deeper places where the shadows live in my life, where the chaos might live, where I'm unwilling to look with my conscious mind, right? So, and remembering that so much of our lives is that unconscious mind, and that chaos can play out not necessarily, we're kind of taught, like, State Farm commercials, where chaos is this big, this big ordeal in your life. But chaos can also play out at this very low level background brainstem, body to the brain disruption that creates depression or anxiety, because it can just kind of run in the background, right? Neurologically, chaos is the idea that there's a void with no structure. There's a void that needs to be filled, and we will try and fill that void, right? We will fill it in all sorts of different ways. It could be through addictions. It could be through escapism. It could be, like, whatever it is for you, there's a way that you might be trying to fill that void that is the natural center of this chaos, right? So the shadow tendency then is to want to run away from it, or control it, or control the outward environment. That needs to change so that I feel safe, those kinds of things. And the reminder here is that safety will never come outside of you. When we're doing deep trauma alignment work, you can never expect the outside environment to feel safe. It's not the responsibility of the outside environment to feel safe for you. It's your responsibility to create a nervous system that knows how to self-regulate and knows how to find safety. And really, I tell my clients all the time, is that you can't do that without finding this higher center, this higher purpose in your heart space, right? Like, it's the heart-brain cohesion. It's when we bring love to something, right? So really, one of the ways through this chaos is to love it more, to love instead of, like, pulling away, like fear. Oh my gosh, I'm going to run away from that change. It's to lean into loving even more. How can I love this moment even more? I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure I talked about resiliency, and I did. So one of the things that Richard Rudd said in his book was that chaos is the process of coming back to harmony. And I just think that's such a great way to talk about this gate, is that through the innovation of change, through the ability to be adaptable and resilient and allow change, and align with the ability that, or the idea that is the natural state of the whole cosmos, is aligned. The only consistent in the cosmos is change. And when we really align with that, and it means that we're aligning with the trust that it's a divine intelligence that's way bigger than us. We don't know the whole plan. We very rarely know even most of the plan. And I would say probably most often we've only got one piece of the plan, but we try and create order from that one piece, right? And so this gate is asking you to release all of those tendencies to cling, to hold on to what was, and to allow the space for what is possible, the thing that's possible beyond this, the innovative place. It's not an accident that we find this gate in Aries. We're in Aries season, which is a fire cardinal sign. And so what that brings is that the fire energy brings this innovation, it brings this creativity, it brings this spark of life to it. And that Aries asks us to look at like our individuality and how we are here to serve the whole, how we can take our ego out and become the divine rebel that we're meant to be, right? Like what's mine to do? What's my higher purpose? How do I align with that? And then how do I live from that place to serve the greater whole of humanity? We're going to talk about that more with a gate that's coming up as well, because that's kind of the next gate. The next step of out of this chaos comes my true purpose, my alignment with my higher purpose, the innovation, the aha moment of my true alignment. So this gate is asking us then to look at, it's from this space of real heart-centered openness. So if we look at the quantum alignment system, which is Karen Curry Parker's work, which if you've heard me say this before, I feel like when we're doing the shadow work, when we're deep in the shadow work, or when we're first kind of on our personal growth or spiritual growth path, the gene keys in human design really help us to understand the different aspects of each of these archetypes. But as we've really begun to work with them, what opens up is this higher expression of the whole thing, which is more how Karen Curry Parker interprets those gates. So it's like, once you've kind of begun to do the shadow work, it's not that you're trying to get there. It's just the natural alignment is that you end up where Karen says the gate is. And where Karen says the gate is that it's the gate of innovation, in the sense of like aligning with those inspired ideas and trusting in divine timing. This gate is a sacral gate. It's found in the sacral center, or the sacral chakra. And that center is about the vitality necessary. This one would be reaching towards the root chakra, which is about timing, right? So it's the right timing to use that vital energy to do what is yours to do. It's the right timing and aligning this innovation and trusting that the changes come in divine timing. The innovations come in divine time. There's nothing to rush or push or know or do, right? Like, because that's our tendency, is to want to rush it into action, especially right now when Aries is really asking us about who am I? What am I here to do? What's my purpose in life? And I'm going to talk about that, but it's like, and then we can get this sense of urgency to do it. There's an urgency to it. But this gate reminds us that it will naturally unfold. There's harmony is the process of the natural unfoldment of this innovation, this chaos. Through the lens of innovation, we can be playful with chaos, and then we can find harmony, right? So it's like, I want you to think about, I used to say this to my clients when I was doing brain integration, is when we start to work with somebody's brain integration, sometimes we have to unpack the mess, right? So it's like, not to think of your brain as a mess, but it's a good metaphor. It's like, if your brain were a closet and it was a very messy closet, you couldn't even get the doors closed. We'll just call that ADHD maybe, or ADD. Then sometimes we have to go in and we have to take everything out of the closet to build a new organization. So it's empty, right? We have to take the chaos out, create a void, make an empty space, and then we can fill it back the way that feels good and harmonious, right? And that's the best way to think about this gate. This gate might be, and the reason why I felt called to do a video for you is this gate might be feeling like you are unpacking the closet, or the closet is busting at the effing seams, right? It's like shit is everywhere. But what it's asking you is like, okay, embrace the chaos. That's a mess. It's time for me to take a look at everything that's there and then put back what feels good and release what does not, and stay in the space of what could be when I am willing to unpack that chaos, when I'm willing to unpack where I might be feeling like I'm holding on to something that's no longer serving me. So, all right, so this is an easy one, right? Like pure chaos to order to harmony. Doesn't feel like a big one. No, I'm kidding. I'm always kind of kidding a little bit, but y'all get it. Like it could be wreaking a little bit of chaos in your life, literally. But the reminder is that sometimes it's through the acceptance that of that chaos and the embracing and bringing childlike joy and wonder to that chaos. Like, what is possible if I really dove in and looked? That's the real essence of this gate. So I hope that helps. Remembering that heart brain cohesion is an amazing technique. If you have never tried it, you can go to heartmath.com. I think they have YouTube videos on it, but it's really simple. It's about aligning your breath. It's about aligning it's about aligning with that center, the part of you that is the light that is connected to the whole, and allowing that place to be the place that centers you, finds harmony in you, and then allows you to be curious about your life. So breathing deeply into the heart, holding higher emotions. That's how it's done. Again, you can find YouTube videos, but if there's one tool that I wish everyone would practice every single day, it's heart brain cohesion. It's the basis of our true ability to face a future that is going to require that we feel connected, which I'm going to talk about more next week. So that's it for now. I hope that you have a beautiful week. I hope that you embrace the chaos, whatever it is, and I'll see you really soon.